Hello, viewers, and welcome to another edition of Reminiscences. Today, we have perhaps a guest who is the oldest you have seen on the program, an elder statesman who is nothing less than 95 years old, and he's Alhaji Salihu Abubakar Tanko Yakasai, who many know in his activities as a politician from the First Republic to now. So I sometimes would say that he's perhaps the oldest practicing politician we have still around, and as you probably soon find out, still very active and very clear in his responses. So, sir, I'd like to welcome you to Reminiscences.
Thank you very much.
And start with something that most of us don't have the experience of being 95. How does it feel to be 95?
Well, in my case, I think I feel normal, except that I've seen many things that have happened that others didn't see. Other than that, as far as my state of health, my ability to talk and so on, I think I am all right.
Many people say old age is a burden. It's something that really constrains you. Do you really feel burdened by advanced age?
Yes, I have my constraint as an old man. My own is constant forgetfulness. I forget things, but one thing I'm happy about is that I will eventually remember whatever I forgot. Either within 24 hours, or within a week, or within a month, or within a year.
What are the joys of old age? What is it that about old age that really you think the younger ones don't know and probably they're missing?
Well, I think a lot. When we were young, there was no radio, no television, but we enjoyed our life through activities, playing, attending schools, exchanging ideas, and listen to stories from the elders and so on. That's the type of thing that we really enjoyed over the time. When we were young, we didn't think what is happening today will happen. So many people of my age are now surprised to find things that are happening now that are happening.
Somehow, like what? What is it that surprises
you? For instance, something will happen in America, in Russia, in different parts of the world. Within a moment, you will watch it, you will experience it, and it will encourage you. It will add to your experience and to your knowledge. This we didn't have before. We had all the time, but not this luxury of getting to know a lot of things within the shortest possible time. I think is a special gift from God, for which we should be very grateful.
One other remarkable thing about you is that with very little formal education as we know it now, you became party leader of a national party, you became commissioner of different information, finance, you became a national advisor of politics or in the Second Republic. You know, what is it? Because a lot of people will be surprised that somebody who hasn't really gone to the formal university and all that is able to do this.
Yes. Well, there is no difference between learning in the university and learning at home. We started by learning at home. Of course, we were attending Quranic schools, but most of the education in terms of Western education, I personally learned it at home. I say I learned it from on the streets, as they say. So those who learn from the school have the luxury of knowing the easiest way of learning better than ourselves. But I think those of us who learn the hard way, we also have what we have permanently imprinted in our psyche that we easily remember them. Yes.
But how are you able to sort of develop even very good grasp of English and world affairs from the street, not from formal?
Well, you read them. I started by accident as a journalist. That was 1953. And I started in the Comet as a reporter, then later on house editor, and also at the same time, I was National Publicity Secretary of my party, NEPU, and I competed with better educated people who helped me to prepare myself in order to interact with them effectively. It was a challenge, but certainly I'm happy that I'm able to cope with the situation. It's not easy.
Yeah. But before all that, you were a tailor, right?
Yes.
So how is that transition?
Yes.
What is it about tailors? Is that they because they meet more people, and how is it that you made that transition?
Yes.
From that artisan trade
Yes.
to now being a journalist, an editor, and a party leader?
Well, tailoring, I think, is the best profession. Not because I was a tailor,
Yes.
because nobody doesn't benefit from that experience, from tailoring. The traditional rulers, the kings, the generals, the professors, everybody. You will not go to classes as a professor until you are well dressed. It's the tailor that makes you to look better. When you are getting married, you like to look more presentable. And when you are appearing in a television like this, you like to be presentable. All these are the work of tailor. Very few people understand how important, how critical it is for tailors or tailoring to the way of life of humanity. Because nobody is immune from using the expertise of tailors to his advantage. Everybody. So in doing that, you also encounter challenges because things are changing. I was engaged in tailoring right from 41, when I came back from pursuit of Quranic education in Bauchi. Now, I started learning tailoring in Arewa, a town in Misau district of Emirate of Bauchi State. But when I came back, I now became professional. I was doing it as a profession, and gradually we are graduating from one type of dressing to another. What we used to do in our days, early days, is no longer fashionable in the society now. Like windia. Windia is a type of big dress that not every tailor is able to do. And yet, in our days, you don't know how to do windia, to make windia, or to make a shara, very good design and so on. You cannot get patronage. But now, nobody is even thinking of it.
Yeah.
It's not a fashion to you,
Yeah.
but even to me,
Yeah.
because I don't have any windia anymore. So these are things, it's a profession that graduate with time. You are always up to date if you are engaged in it.
Yeah. Let's look at your involvement with NEPO. You were, as you said, at one time the National Publicity Secretary. But it seems you had a very difficult relation with the NEPO leader, Mala Aminu Kanu, even though everybody in NEPO looked at it as a mentor. But you had difficulties. At one time, you were expelled from the party and then later on brought back. What was the reason for this difficult relation you had with Mala Aminu?
Well, one interesting thing is that from my experience, throughout the history of political party system in Nigeria, I think I was the only party member who was expelled by the party, and eventually the party decided to bring him back on their own. I was expelled, and
what did you do to be expelled?
well, I was invited by a friend of mine to go to the Soviet Union in China. That was in 1960, actually. I accepted the invitation, but I approached my party leader, Mala Amin Kanu, that I would like to nominate some of the leaders, because I was asked to come along with some party leaders. I wanted to nominate some of them to go along with me, but he was not interested. But I was committed already. So I had to go to look for some people, some NEPO people, leaders, on my own, who accepted to go along with me. And we came to Lagos, I think a day before the date of independence. Then we celebrated the independence anniversary. I took part in the parade, in the music in the evening. And the following morning, without even Malamin, I stayed with him in Lagos. But the following morning, we left. We hired a bus, minibus, to Accra. And from there, we flew to, I think, Mali, from there to Moscow, and from there to Peking. And I spent about 3 months, all in all, going around places in China, and later on in the Soviet Union, and from Soviet Union in the East German Democratic Republic at that time, East Germany. So when I came back, sadly I went without his permission, even though he was aware that I was getting ready to go. So he didn't say anything, but some of our colleagues were not happy that I would go to Russia and China at that time, because it was a big taboo to go to China or Russia, Soviet Union at that time. So they felt that I was engaging in activities that will make NEPU not in good books of the colonial administrators, because we are just getting independence. So because of that, I believe probably with some consultation with Malam bin Kano, our leader, they decided to expel me. But what they did was to ask Kano provincial leadership to announce my expulsion from the party without consultation, without even
bringing you to defend yourself.
asking me to defend myself. So that happened. I contacted people, then we got a formal invitation to vote. Now, when we came back, when they eventually expelled me, I decided not to go to any other party. But instead, I formed another party called Sawaba Party of Nigeria. We are friendly with members of Sawaba Party in Niger who are engaged in armed struggle at that time.
Armed struggle in Niger?
You're not aware of
No.
that? Oh, yes. Sawaba Party engaged in armed struggle in Niger for
To
a number of years.
free the country from the French rule.
They were fighting against French rule. But we didn't in Nigeria. But I think that fear of probably engaging in that kind of activities probably played role in making my colleagues to insist that I should be expelled from the party, so that I don't involve the party to unnecessary accusation of inclination to communism and so on.
So were you a communist yourself and Marlon wasn't? That's the basis of
Well,
the
I was
difference?
really a very committed socialist of Marxian school of thought. And I was all along a Marxist-Leninist, and I'm still one.
You still are?
I am still one. So because of that, there was this kind of factionalization in the party. When I was expelled, I was not expelled alone. I was expelled along some people who are very close to me. And so when I formed this Sawaba party, those people who were expelled along with me also joined me, and we started to spread it. Then probably some of the leaders saw the danger in allowing that Sawaba party to spread, because it would weaken the NEPU. Because the slogan of NEPU was Sawaba. And if NEPU expelled us, it is clear that NEPU did not approve of our way of politicking. And therefore, these people felt that we should not be allowed to associate with NEPU supporters. And therefore, we are likely to drag them into the Sawaba party, and which will diminish the appeal NEPU was making to the general populace. And therefore, they felt that it's safer to expel me or to expel us. When they did it and they realized that it was making us more popular, then they decided on their own to bring us back.
Now, suddenly the military struck in '66.
Yes.
And you, in the radical NEPU,
Yes.
moved to government, became a commissioner.
Yes.
Is that not a kind of, how did you justify you who is trying to liberate the Talakawa now joining a military government and becoming commissioner information and finance, actually, which is even more surprising?
Well, after the coup, there was a movement in northern Nigeria that brought about different parties or members of parties together.
The Northern Elders, the Northern
Members
Consultative,
of
yes.
NEPU, MPC, UMBC,
Yes.
and the rest of them.
Yes.
We were working together because we are working against the regime that was at that time fighting politicians. So we were against Iransi, and therefore were organized against Iransi regime. Through that effort, we were able to mobilize support, and all along, under the military rule, the governor of northern Nigeria at that time, in fact, the head of state, Yakubu Gowon, appointed leading opposition party members into his cabinet.
Yes, at the national level.
At the national level.
Yes.
And he directed governors in the state level also to employ the services of party supporters at that level. So it was not only at the national level or NEPU members, but UMBC members. Tanko was a commissioner, federal commissioner, along with Mala Aminu Kanu, Shatima Alimanguno from MPC, Shehu Shagari, and the rest of them. So in Kano, I was one of the people selected to be a commissioner, along with others, like Sani Geza, was then the secretary of MPC, Kano provincial secretary, and others.
Yes.
So that was how we managed to be in the government. The government at that time wanted the support of every section of the community, and we lent our support. They appreciated it, and they think they should compensate us by giving us consideration in making appointments.
Yes. But was it difficult for you to be, I mean, I can understand Commissioner for Information. Was it difficult for you to be Commissioner of Finance?
Well, in any case, when I was Commissioner for Information, I was already a publicity secretary in my party before.
Yes.
Which was virtually about the same experience. Now, it will interest you to learn that when Audu came to appoint his commissioners, he consulted. Among the people he consulted was Mala Aminu Kanu. Mala Aminu Kanu gave some nomination, and he told him that he wanted a recommendation that will reflect the different groups in Kano. So he recommended people who were by and large representative of different interests in Kano. MPC, NEPU, business community, traditional rulers, and the rest of them. So 10 of us were appointed, and I was nominated to represent the interests of NEPU members. Sani Geza was appointed to represent the interests of MPC because he was the provincial secretary of the MPC. Amin Ntata was appointed to represent the interests of business community and the rest of them. So that was how we were made up at that time. Then I continued from finance, from information. Then there was a reshufflement, and I was posted to community development, cooperative, and what else? I can't remember. 3 ministries grouped together, given to me. I was running them, and I think I spent 2 years running them before I was asked to act in acting capacity in the Ministry of Finance. The Commissioner for Finance at that time was Alhaji Gumal. He became sick and he was sent to London for treatment. And he recommended that he wanted me to act for him in his absence. So I was appointed to act for him. I don't know. I think the governor was happy with my performance. Unfortunately, eventually Alhaji Umar Gumal died. So governor decided that he was happy with my work and I should now continue as substantive commissioner for finance. That was how I was able to transmute it from Ministry of Information
To finance.
To finance.
But it seems your involvement in the finance ministry probably contributed to the problem you had when the government of Audu Bako collapsed. When the military, when Gawan's regime was removed and Murtala came and there was this probe and confiscations of property, and you are one of them whose property was confiscated because you are seen as having been part of the Audu Bako government. I mean, why? You defended yourself quite well in your biography, how you acquired some of your properties. But that was the general perception. Do you think Murtala, the government was too hasty in all these probes and confiscations?
No. You see, when Audu Bako came to Kano as military governor, I said he consulted widely, and he consulted Amin Kano. And among the recommendations made to him for the people he should appoint as commissioners, he was more impressed with the widespread nature of the recommendation made by Malam Amin Kano to him. And therefore he tended to consider the recommendation of Malam Amin Kano more than the recommendation made by other people. So majority of the people he appointed were picked from the list submitted to him by Malam Amin Kano. Well, you know, Malam Amin Kano, although Amin Kano and Murtala and Wada were related through their parents, they belonged to Genawa clan in the Fulani group in Kano. So although Wada was NPC, was at one time organizing secretary of NPC and later on a minister and so on, prominent member of NPC. So while Amin Kano was the leader of NEPU at the time when states were created, and because of their differences from the First Republic, so the people recommended by Malam were seen to be more of NEPU sympathizers than NPC sympathizers. So there were about 4 or 5 of them, of us, I should say, that were closer to Audu Bako. Like I said, Sani Geza, for instance, Alhaji Muhammad Kazauri, Magajin Garin Kazauri, and a number of them were former NPC, and yet were among the few people closer to Audu Bako. I happened to be one of them. So it didn't go well with my NPC opponents because Audu Bako seemed to be listening to some advice from people dominated by Amin Kano, myself included. But because I was the National Publicity Secretary of NEPU, I was the most prominent NEPU member in the cabinet. So all the hatred against NEPU members was dumped on me. And this is the reason why there was this hatred against...
So the perception that you are part of the corruption in the Audu Bako regime?
Well, we were investigated And it will surprise you to hear that till today, I was never invited to defend myself throughout the inquiries. And not only myself, Sani Gezawa, who else?
Duzi.
Duzi. We were never invited, but our assets were confiscated. And some of us whose assets were confiscated were later on asked to pay back some token money and reclaim their assets, but we are not. That will show you the kind of consideration that led to this intensive hatred towards me and some of my colleagues.
You seem to think, unlike most Nigerians, that the Murtala regime did more harm than good. Did more harm than good, the Murtala regime. Even though you recognize some of their achievements, but you said, look, perhaps it was good for the country that it didn't last too long. What's the reason for this judgment?
Well, you see, when Gawon was toppled, it introduced a nasty element in the politics of northern Nigeria. Because for the first time, it introduced dichotomy between the Muslims and non-Muslim indigenes of northern Nigeria. Then, what was the question?
Yeah, I would say Murtala. Your own perception of him is not that.
Yes, Murtala, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, was recruited into the military through the good offices of his uncle, Inowada. And therefore he was much closer to Inowada than even to Amin Kano, who was also a member of Genawa clan, which Murtala and Inowada belonged to. So that was the reason why I think Murtala thought that it was not me alone. Even Malamin Kano was subjected to some harsh treatment. The only thing is that he was at national demo and more recognized than me. And therefore, there was a fear that if he was subjected to the kind of intimidation and persecution that I was submitted, it will gain more prominence. It will bring about some reaction, negative reaction to the regime. But certainly even Malamin Kano was harshly treated. So we were not in good terms with Murtala Mohammed. And I didn't know him before. I've never known Murtala until when there was a crisis in the country, when they were sent by a Lagos group of northerners to raise funds in Kano for some activities. That was the first time I even heard of Murtala Mohammed. He's much younger than me, and there was no connection whatsoever between him and myself. So, but he saw me as somebody belonging to a group of political thought that were not friendly with his promoter in order. And therefore, he thought it wise probably to see what he can get out of it by oppressing me and a few others in our group. Yes.
But at the national level, what do you think of him? Did you think some of the radical ideas he brought in the short period he was president? Were they good for the country?
Well, I am, an active politician. I judge people by what they contribute to society. I don't want to criticize Murtala, but what Murtala did was arrest, imprisonment, inquiries. It didn't do, to my mind, anything positive for Nigeria. I don't see anything that anybody can talk of Murtala that has contributed to the well-being, betterment of Nigeria and well-being of its people. That's my belief, till tomorrow. So, like I said, he was closer to Wada, and therefore he regarded himself as an MPC diehard, and I been a NEP publicity secretary. In fact, in addition to being a NEP publicity secretary, I was acting secretary for NEPU from 1955 to 1958 for 3 years when the secretary was in prison, combined with my position as publicity secretary. So I think that made me a target of attack and hatred by people who consider themselves as committed MPC supporters, including Murtala.
Yeah. Now, you played a role in the MPA government, MPN, which was led by Shehu Shagari. I think the National Liaison officer, National Assembly. Why did that government flounder? Why did it fail?
Well, this is a matter of opinion. I don't think the government has failed. The government has a lot of enemies. Shehu Shagari is not, flamboyant by nature. So there were a lot of northerners who were not happy with Shehu Shagari. They think he was too slow. They wanted him to act like Murtala, arrest this, prison that one, and so on. He didn't do that. So there were a lot of northerners, not just Murtala, who think that Shehu Shagari was not the type of leaders that should be the president of Nigeria at that time. But people like me, I work on principle. Shehu Shagari to date is the most senior public senior person. He held ministries, 3 different ministries, from the First Republic to the end of the transition period from the military to civil rule. He held more ministries than any other Nigerian. And if he was not competent, he wouldn't be considered for different ministries at different times.
Under different regimes.
Regimes, civilian regime, first civilian regime, then military regime. He was started as under military as commissioner for education in Sokoto, Northwestern State. And then, because of his performance, he was asked to replace Awolowo when Awolowo resigned as Federal Commissioner for Finance. In fact, to my mind, anybody who will start as a state commissioner at any given moment, and then the central government later on decided that he was better be brought to the central national level and be made minister or commissioner for finance is not a little compliment to the credibility and ability of Shehu Shagari. But you are a politician, you have to make do with enemies. It's the business of making friends and making enemies. Yes.
So you think he was unfairly blamed for the failure of the Second Republic as the leader?
No, the Second Republic did not fail. It didn't fail. Those who wanted to take over power said it failed, but it didn't fail. I don't think it failed. It was not given the time. This is a transition from military rule to civilian rule. And after 13 years of lull of civilian democratic activities, you don't expect a civilian president to behave like a military head of state and begin to do things. By nature, Shehu Shagari is a quiet person, very calculating, and therefore people who wanted to rush him like Murtala and so on were disappointed. So he was not popular with them. And those are the type of people who hated Shehu Shagari till today, even though he died.
How do you think we are doing now? We have had maybe 20 years or more of civilian government after the military. How do you think we are doing?
Well, we have what they call in Hausa Zabukaji.
Zabukaji?
I don't know if you know this Hausa.
No, not enough.
You know Zabua?
Yes.
Zabua Kaza.
Okay, yes, okay.
Zabikaji.
Yes.
Not Zabua, not Kaza.
Yes.
This is what we
Some kind of hybrid. Yes.
This is what is happening. Today, we are not in a full-fledged civilian administration. Don't forget that the military, intervened to get Obasanjo as head of state. And Obasanjo ruled by large, not as a civilian head of state, even though he was elected as a president later. But he was a military officer for most of his adult life. You do not expect him to behave differently. The same thing with Buhari. He was a military head of state. Now he's an elected president. Some of his behaviors are more akin to military rule than to civilian democratic system. It's natural. You can't spend your life. Today, if you give me your address, I'll show it for you. Because I learned it for a long time. The only thing is that I cannot do the modern one. But if you give me the old one, I will do it for you. So when people are used to certain way of life, you change them to different places, they'll behave in the same manner as they were behaving before.
But are you satisfied that the government is dealing effectively with the problems of the country?
I would say yes, to some extent. But not, what happened is this. If you look at what Buhari is now doing, he's picking up ideas. But my, criticism of Buhari is that he tried 3 times to be elected as an elected president. He failed. Then, by the stroke of luck, he succeeded in the 4th round.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for somebody who tried 3 times to be the president of this country, and when the opportunity came his way, he should be ready. Right from the beginning, I became disenchanted because of the time it took Buhari even to appoint secretary to the government. That does not require the clearance of anybody. It's just You do it as you wake up from your bed. And many appointments took him 3 or 4 months to do it. That shows to you that he was not prepared, even though he attempted 3 times. Now, it's only now, if you look at the program is now unfolding, they are good. They are like rehabilitation of railways. We could have done this much earlier. Would have been enjoying more railway system in this country and more other things that he's now doing. But time is not waiting for anybody.
Yeah.
Now he has only 1.5 years to go,
Yeah.
not even up to full 1.5 years. And by this time next year, we're in partisan politicking. The attention of everybody is on the next government, not on this government. And even this government will be struggling to complete some of the projects started. So they are doing, Buhari is doing what he can do, but he should have started much earlier. The result would have been different.
Does he consult veteran politicians like you about?
No, I criticized him from the beginning. And he's a person who doesn't forgive. So apart from me, even those who did not criticize him, how many of the old, experienced politicians did he bring into his government? We still have some of our colleagues, even not as commissioners, not as ministers, but even as advisors, consult them from time to time. People like Ayo Adebanjo, Mbazulike Amechi, and the rest of them, they are there, many of them, and the much younger ones. But are they being consulted?
Well, Amechi was with him just a few days ago, and I don't know what you think of the implied promise he made that he will now consider releasing Nnamdi Kanu, the Biafran agitator, because there was a delegation that went to him, and he made that promise to look at the possibility of some kind of amnesty.
Did he give any commitment?
Well, he said he will look at it.
Yes.
So I don't know what do you think is something that...
Look, I doubt if anybody with the head of state of Nigeria or any country will ignore somebody who declared war against his country. Not only declared war, but went and attacked physically security forces, killing military people, police, and so on. Buhari, the president, he had the power to forgive and pardon whoever he wishes. I wouldn't stop him from doing it. I don't have the power to stop him, but I wouldn't do it if I were him. I wouldn't forgive or pardon somebody who declared war against this country. I'm a committed nationalist. I fought for this country. I went to prison many times for this country. For people to come and declare war against this country, kill many military officers, police officers, security people, and train people to kill people carelessly, just because what contribution, positive contribution, Nnamdi Kanu did to Nigeria, or even to Igbo people. He didn't bring Biafra. He met Biafra. He was young at the time when Biafra was declared. So it's up to President Buhari. He's the president of this country. He can, the most people Nnamdi Kanu hated the most are Northerners, in particular House of Fulani. I'm not Fulani, but I'm Hausa. So I have no power to stop Buhari from pardoning Nnamdi Kanu. It is his power to do it. But I will not support him.
Are you worried with all this agitation, Biafra, Southwest? Your colleague Ayo Adebanjo was saying recently that, look, they don't believe in 2023. The process should be stopped. There should be a national conference of some sort or constitutional change to sort out the problems we have before we go to an election.
Both Ayo Adebanjo and myself served on the constitutional conference set up by Sani Abacha. All these ideas, Ayo didn't take them to the conference. That was the best opportunity Ayo Adebanjo had or have so far to make contribution. And it is not enough to call for, what do they call it?
Restructuring.
Restructuring. Why can't Ayo Adebanjo articulate what his idea of restructuring is all about?
But he does it. Every time, every opportunity he has. He's saying we should go back to the Constitution of 1963, which is agreed by nationalists like you.
He knows it's not possible. Nobody can change 35 states or 36 into 3 regions in Nigeria. Nobody can do it, not even a military ruler. Once somebody advocated something, you better think of the practicability of that thing the person is advocating for. Is it possible? Or is it saying for the sake of winning support from the younger ones who do not know the consequences of what he's advocating for?
I seem to think that one middle ground he wants is at least to go back to the Jonathan 2014 conference. It produced a document. He said it was well attended by all shades of opinion, and that it came out with a compromise, which was just thrown out or not used by the Buhari government.
Yeah, but he should have said so.
He's saying so that at least that should be a basis.
But that is not what.
But do you think it's enough?
No, that is not what I understand him to be advocating. He's advocating for restructuring. But when he is pressed to expound, and then he begins to talk of, but he has the time. This is a seasoned lawyer of his 93.
Yes.
He has well over 60 years experience in the bar, or thereabout. I'm not a lawyer, but if I feel strongly about something, by now I would have submitted a written document, even if it is not going to be implemented. At least one day, people will come and begin to dust it and begin to look at it. He didn't articulate that position. He didn't submit a blueprint for restructuring Nigeria. I'm a politician. I know what politicians will say just to be popular. And I know what politicians will say, which is possible, which is practical.
Why do you stand on the power shift debate?
No.
Whether it should go south or
I don't know the candidate yet. But in principle, I believe in the idea of NPN. I was an active member of the National Executive Committee, deputy chairman of Kano branch of the party, and I served NPA from the beginning to the end. I am a believer. I'm one of those who really articulated the principle of zoning and rotation in MPN, along with people like Kaloma Aliyu, Umar Duku, and the rest of them. So I am in support of zoning and rotation. But I think it is too early to begin to pinpoint individual, because they haven't come out yet. Let us begin to get the politicians, coming out and declaring their interest and presenting their own program with the help for the country. I'd rather support somebody who has something good to advocate for the country than slogans. I don't like slogans.
So you will support somebody even if it doesn't fit the rotation. Like now, a Northerner has done it for 8 years. You are saying it should be open to the possibility of the best candidate.
There is nothing you can do about it. What is now happening is that we have virtually a two-party system in the country. I don't see the possibility of the two parties presenting candidates from one section of Nigeria. It will come. But depending on the candidate presented from the north and the one from the south, based on the program, they will come with in relation to the national aspiration that I have and that most Nigerians have for the betterment of this country.
Let me finish with one sort of personal issue, which maybe you ask the younger people can learn. In your biography, you said something interesting, that you could actually write a book about your misadventure in marriage. Of course, there's a famous story where you were given a wife who you didn't want, you rebelled for 4 years. Later on, you wanted one and somebody else married her. You know, what can you say about this thing? You don't have a chance to write a book, but what few can you tell us? You have married many times.
Well,
what is the joy and pain of marriage?
I wrote it in the book. But, you know, God is very kind. God knew how I suffered at the beginning of my married life.
Yes.
I really suffered.
Yes, in the early days.
Yeah, the beginning of my married life. And in his infinite mercy, he has now compensated me. I have gotten 19 children now, alive. And they came from the wives I married after my first and second marriage. And the children I got came from them. And they are all fine. They are all graduates, master's degree, PhD holders. And I'm not rich and didn't sponsor any of them to the university. But they work hard and they are now with their achievement in education. So I think God has compensated me by giving me the wives that I love and they love me. And you'll be surprised to hear that the wife I married last, had 5 children with me. And 5 children. And they produce 12, I think, or 13 children for me. Grandchildren. For me. Bringing the total of my grandchildren to about 60 now. And I'm grateful to God for compensating me. I don't have any complaint.
For the earlier misadventure.
Well, it was not of my own making.
Yes.
It was made, you know, at that time, generally, young people married not girls of their choice, but it was their parent that would decide for them who to marry, whether they like them or not.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much.
I'm happy about it.
Yes, thank you. I think on that note, I'd like to bring this session to a close and thank Alhaji Tanko Yakasai for giving us the opportunity to go over his long life and many experiences, both personal and political. And I hope viewers, you will join us in another edition of Reminiscences.